How to live alone and like it. Let's talk about it. So, I've been living alone for the past almost 7 or so years, and I absolutely love it. But that was not always the case, which was incredibly surprising to me because in my very, very early 20s, it was my ultimate goal. My ultimate dream was to finally have my own place and live on my own and be completely independent and self sufficient and a real adult. And then it happened. I found my first apartment. I moved in. I was all excited. I got in here and it was not giving what I thought it was going to give. Why is that? If there's anything the past 7 or so years have taught me, it's that living alone and living alone well is really kind of an art form. It can be a really fun, enjoyable, affirming growth experience, but it does take a little bit of time and a little bit of being intentional to really make it that way. So today I'm going to share my top 5 tips for how to live alone and like it, how to squeeze the absolute most of the experience of doing life on your own. Tip number 1, manage your money. Once the novelty of just being in my very own apartment wore off, I started to get kind of worried. Like, am I actually going to be capable of managing a household all on my own? All of the bills are on me. What if I can't pay my rent? What if I can't afford groceries and so on and so forth? So what I did to try to give myself a little peace of mind is I started having what I like to call dates with my finances. So every other week, as soon as I got paid, I would wake up, usually on Saturday mornings. I would make myself a cup of tea. I would grab a notebook, pen, and I would literally just go line by line, write down my balance, what I had in my account currently. I would write down all of my bills, the amounts that were due, when they were due. I would leave a column for me to be able to check things off, and I would pay everything there in one sitting. And after that, I would subtract everything, and that gave me the number that I needed to have in my head throughout the rest of the month for what I could use on groceries and gas and recreation and shopping and going to the movies. Doing that really helped me to eliminate that very foundational fear of not being able to financially handle living on my own, which freed up the mental space for me to now be able to focus on other things and making it a more enriching experience. Step number 2, curate your space. So in the first few months of me moving out again for the first time, I found that I didn't want to go home a lot of times. I would come in from work and I would look for errands to run or places to go to prolong the time that I had to spend outside before I would have to go back home. And I couldn't figure out why. I had my space kind of decorated, kind of laid out to an extent, but overall, looking back, it was kind of bland. It wasn't very inviting. It didn't really feel homey. So one day I decided to go and grab a picture to throw above the couch. I brought some rope lights from IKEA and some throw pillows for the sofa. And I came home and I put everything up and I immediately just felt so much better about my space. Never underestimate the power of a welcoming space. You don't have to spend a lot of money. It doesn't have to be anything super extravagant, but just putting some thought into how you arrange your space and making it someplace that you are excited to come home to, that you feel comfortable spending your time in. Tip number 3 is to know your solitude threshold. This is a big one. Barbara Feldon, who is most widely known for being a very prominent 1960s sitcom actress, wrote a book called Living Alone and Loving It. In that book, she wrote that she was surprised to learn that when she spent long stretches of time all by herself, she started to get a little bit uncomfortable. And this is something that I can attest to and something that I was incredibly surprised to find because Sister Girl is a textbook introvert. I get all my energy really from being on my own. I need to be alone to recharge. I process so many things internally. And yet I also found that when I would spend all my time alone in a little vacuum all by myself, that I would start to get a little bit anxious. And so knowing your solitude threshold, knowing how much time you can spend completely by yourself before you start to feel a little bit antsy and uncomfortable is really, really important. And that way you can put things in place that help you to prevent even getting to that point. Make sure that you are nurturing your relationships. If you live close to your family and you have a good relationship with your family, make the time to regularly connect with them. Have Sunday dinner with them or call them on the phone regularly throughout the week. If you have a good group of friends, make arrangements with your friends. And even just getting outside and being around other people in a coffee shop or at a play or a concert can be helpful as well. Eventually, this will be something that you really don't even have to think about. You'll just naturally learn how to navigate that balance between alone time and spending time with other people. But when you're first getting used to that dynamic of being on your own, it's something important to think about. Know your solitude threshold. Tip number 4 is to get out of the house. And I know that seems like complete common sense, but sometimes you get so focused on building what's inside of your home that you forget that you don't have to spend all of your time there. And it makes a big difference in your mood when you've just been inside the same four walls constantly, day in and day out. So go out, go to dinner, go to the movies, take a class, take a trip. I love solo travel. Curating a full life outside of your home is just as important as curating what's on the inside. Get outside. Last but not least is tip number 5, and that is to create fulfilling routines and rituals. And by that, I just mean identifying some experiences or things that you can do on a regular basis that contribute to your overall sense of well being. That could be anything from waking up a little earlier in the morning so you have time to have your cup of tea, or to do some stretching and 15 minutes of journaling, or taking every Friday night to listen to some good jazz music and cook a little gourmet dinner. Whatever it is that brings you joy, those little experiences, make sure that you are incorporating them into your day-to-day routine. So those were my top 5 tips for how to live alone and really like it. I hope that you enjoyed and that you found at least some of them beneficial. And if you have tips of your own, please feel free to comment them below. If you like this video, please feel free to stick around. I will have new ones up every single Sunday. So yeah, I would love to have you back. Thanks so much for watching, and take care, and I will hopefully see you next time.